Welcome to the Herd's official YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Colin Cowherd podcast, all of our NFL instant reactions, and more football content.
We've said this. There are certain players in the NBA like Steph Curry, Magic, Bird, Akeem, you know him, MJ, you can build around. And there are other players that are more icing on the cake, Kawhi Leonard or Kevin Durant, where foundationally they may not have the personality, but if they enter a well-formed cake, like the Raptors or the Warriors, they're just what the franchise needs. To me, that's Micah in Green Bay. His sacks will now close out close games in a very offensive division. I felt a lot of what Micah did in Dallas was either in a blowout win over the Giants or at the time the inept Washington Commanders, or they were in games that were decided and Philadelphia already led big. Is that in Dallas, it was just more icing, but not enough cake. Green Bay, the cake's good. And I've always felt this about KD. He was good in Brooklyn, but they didn't know what they were doing. But where he really worked was Oklahoma City and the Warriors. Phoenix, you want him to lead, he'll get the points, but it doesn't matter. Phoenix doesn't have their act together in the NBA. So I think Micah is one of those guys. He's going to make everybody better. Rashawn Gary's going to be better. Lucas Van Ness is going to be better. And Micah talked about making teammates better and opening up lanes.
I told them, the other day when they were telling me about the snap count, I was like, man, we can run gassers, we can be in practice, and you give me these plays, we can run to the ball. But I was like, at the end of the day, you got to let me push through some things. You got to let me, get tired and get wore out there so that way I can become better and get better from it. And, that's when it was like, okay, your reps can go up. You got to really, sometimes you got to fight for your own right to play.
And it's almost like being a great reliever in baseball. When a really good team that's got good starting pitching goes and gets a great closer at the deadline, if you trail 7-2, what's the point of the closer? Or a good DH, right? Like when men are on base, he's even more valuable than a solo jack. Like a great DH on a good team or a great reliever on a solid pitching staff. That's what Micah provides. And it's not that Micah wasn't statistically productive in Dallas, but what did the sacks mean? When they were getting housed by Green Bay at home in the playoff game, what do the sacks mean? Or when they were dominating bad Washington and bad New York, what do they mean? But Kawhi Leonard's baskets in Toronto for that 1 year meant more than all his baskets for the Clippers, right? Because Toronto had a really good organization, GM, coach, roster. They didn't have a get a bucket, get a stop guy. So it felt like in the playoffs, every Kawhi basket in the fourth quarter just felt huge. A lot of them are just forgettable with the Clippers because they're probably about the fourth best team in the West. So I think Micah with Green Bay, the plays will be more memorable. They'll be in shootouts with the Vikings or close games, with a rival, Minnesota or Chicago, and he's going to close it out. And I think there's a time and a place for great players. And listen, Charles Haley won rings in San Francisco, then won, I think, 3 in Dallas. He was great everywhere, and those were 2 excellent organizations. His sacks always mattered, but it often doesn't work that way. You're a great player in a bad franchise, and somebody like Howie Roseman comes in, like A.J. Brown, is on Tennessee. They're not going to win a Super Bowl. They don't have the offense. Well, we already have the offense. You can be the icing. The way it works in the NFL now, defensive players mostly can only be icing. Aaron Donald, as good as he was, it was kind of Stafford and McVay that took them to the Super Bowl. Donald was great. The rules now dictate that it's hard to be the centerpiece of an organization as a defensive player. But on a good team, again, playing with a lead late, and that's what Green Bay is going to do. I remember once talking to Bill Polian, the Hall of Fame GM of the Colts, and he said the minute we got Peyton Manning in-house, then we had to go draft an edge rusher because we knew we were going to be leading games in the fourth quarter 4 out of 5 Sundays. We knew we would be playing with a lead with Peyton Manning. Our job was to get somebody that would close out the win. That was the second most important person. It wasn't wide receivers. It wasn't running backs. It was Peyton and a game-closing edge rusher. Well, when you look at Green Bay now, Matt LaFleur, A, Jordan Love, really good. Running game, strong. Receiver, tight end talent, excellent. Green Bay is going to lead 90% of their games this year. That offense is going to be, it is going to be super productive, and it's still young. So Green Bay is going to have about a 3-year stretch with they haven't missed on a receiver, a tight end. Green Bay doesn't miss on offensive draft picks much, so they're going to be leading most of their games. Dallas this year, truth is, they're going to be trailing most of their games. So teams aren't going to be throwing late. They're going to be trying to drain the clock. So Micah just wasn't going to be as valuable in Dallas as he is in Green Bay. It's the closer on a great baseball team that goes into the 8th leading. That's the difference. So Mike in Green Bay is a much better fit than he was in Dallas. Again, how many meaningless sacks does Myles Garrett have? Myles Garrett, he's going to make money anywhere. He's going to be a Hall of Famer everywhere. How much bigger would Myles Garrett be, playing for the Rams, the Chiefs? He would be pass rusher, team trails late. If you put him on, that's why the Rams went and got Von Miller. They had Aaron Donald. And they looked at it and they thought, okay, Von's had injuries. Von's a little older, but we're leading games late. We need a closer next to Aaron because Aaron's getting double and triple team. That's why the Bills went and got Von Miller and overpaid for him. Their take was, in our division, we're leading games in the fourth quarter against New England, against Miami, and the Jets. The only way we don't win these games in the division if we can't get our quarterback back on the field. So Von Miller will get enough sacks in Buffalo. They overpaid him, but their take was, we're going to be leading the Patriots twice a year in the fourth, the Dolphins twice a year in the fourth. We got to get their offense off the field. Let's guarantee we get it back to our quarterback. That's how you beat great quarterbacks. Make them watch the game instead of take snaps. And so Green Bay's like, the only way you're going to beat us in division, you're not going to slow our offense down much, but if you can run the ball on us, or you get on a heater, we got to get your quarterback off the field and our quarterback back on the field. So there you go.
Colin, did you see how many yards Washington rushed for against the New York Giants? Washington obviously facing the Packers on Thursday.
How many?
220 yards on the ground. 220. I think you got to keep that offense of the Packers off the field. I expect this kid Krosky Merritt, the young rookie,
yes,
fantasy darling, he was good. Jaden had 68 yards. Austin Eckler, a reverse to Debo. If Washington could add like a reliable run game, that's an interesting, that was not an element I expected for them to pop.
Yeah, that's the way you're going to beat Green Bay.
Yeah.
And that's why Green Bay gets a bit of a break that Detroit's rebuilding their O-line.
Yeah.
So Detroit was built to beat them. This year, Detroit's not really built to beat him because their O-line and run game won't be as dominant. All right, Mark Sanchez around the corner, and he's bringing footage. Mark's bringing tape. So the Ravens got clobbered over the last couple of days because they blew that late lead to Josh Allen on the road. Yeah, Josh Allen occasionally is amazing. I don't know if you've heard of him. But it was interesting. I went back and I looked. I said, something doesn't smell right. And I went back, and the Ravens are one of 7 teams to lead at least 20 games by 9 to 16 points in the fourth quarter over the past 4 seasons. And here's what's funny about the teams that lead big. They're all good. Ravens, Bills, Niners, Lions, Eagles, Chiefs, and the Bengals are good with Joe Burrow. And not a lot of crappy teams lead big. The other thing I noticed is not only have the Ravens led more in big games, they've led by more, a lot more often. Yes, they've had 10 more huge leads in the fourth quarter than Buffalo, 10 more in just 4 seasons, and 7 more than the Chiefs in just 4 seasons, and 10 more than the Bengals. And I'm not saying they don't play with their food a little and they don't need to get better. But when you look closely at it, wouldn't the Jets, Giants, and Panthers, Jags, love to have the luxury of actually leading by 9 to 16 points in the fourth quarter? I think the Giants would love the opportunity for that to happen. All the teams that are listed blowing leads, they're all the good teams. And then I went and looked at the teams they've blown leads against. And here's what's interesting. It's often horrible teams, Dolphins, Giants, Jags, Browns, Raiders. They get complacent. They lead big, they close up shop offensively, and they get burned on the back end. Again, I'm not saying they don't have to get better. Then, and I don't think Derrick Henry is going to fumble away a lot of wins going forward, okay? So some of it's just circumstantial. It's a bad break. Then I went and looked at the head coaches in the history of the league with the most blown fourth quarter leads, double-digit leads. Yeah, Tom Landry, Don Shula, Bill Belichick, Mike Shanahan, and John Harbaugh. You see blown leads. You know what I see? Lombardi trophies. Great companies with high expectations sometimes underachieve slightly and the stock goes down because there's these huge expectations of their quarterly earnings, right? Like it's NVIDIA. It was off 0.5%. Well, it's because NVIDIA has been on a 7-year run. So the Ravens have 2 touchdown leads, significantly more than every other team, including the Chiefs and the Bills, over the last just 4 seasons. And that's Lamar in his prime. They get off to huge leads. It's often against bad teams. I mean, you've heard the backdoor cover. That's a term used by gamblers where you know you have the better team. You bet the better team, but you're concerned that the other team can actually throw the ball. They may backdoor cover. You know, you take 7.5 points and they've been getting beat by 13, 14 all day, and then they backdoor cover. Sometimes backdoor covers become backdoor losses. But the truth is they just lead more than everybody else, as did Belichick and Shanahan and Shula. and John Harbaugh and Tom Landry. So, listen, they have an issue. They can't beat Kansas City in the playoffs, and that's a clear issue. But I got one of the worst problems. It's almost a good problem to have. I mean, no problem's good to have, but yeah, we get into these huge leads. By the way, we win most of them. Yeah, we win most of the games we lead big late. That's also not talked about. Yeah, we win 75, 85% of those games. Yeah, but we blow it off into bad teams. Okay. Half this league was just like the opportunity to lead between 9 and 16 points over the last 4 years. And again, they play with their food a little. They shut down the offense, probably a drive too soon. John Harbaugh talks about it.
Maybe part of it's the fact that we've been ahead a lot. You know, we've won a lot of games. So we've had a lot of 2-score leads. So we've kept a lot of those, but I think we've lost 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken. That's too many. We need to be really thoughtful of, you know, how we decide that we're going to approach those situations going forward. You know, let's give it some thought.
And for the record, in college football, and I don't think I'm wrong saying this, you can usually tell by the 3rd series of a game who's going to win the game. Very rarely does a team trail by 2 touchdowns all game and comes back and wins. It just doesn't happen in college football very often. You can trail, but generally if a team goes into a fourth quarter leading by 10, they've got the better players and the better staff and the better geography and the better recruiting base. But in the NFL, look at what we've seen with J.J. McCarthy. Unplayable for 3 quarters. And then the best quarterback in the world for about 15 minutes. That doesn't happen a lot in college football, where some quarterback can't complete passes, pick sixes, and then in the fourth quarter, yeah, he's like 9 for 10 and perfect. Buffalo scoring all those points to win 41-40 after being outplayed. There are no Josh Allens quarterbacking in college football. It's just part of being pro football. It's like basketball. It's the reality of basketball with a 3-point shot. You know, good teams blow big leads because good teams lead big late more than bad teams. I would imagine, I haven't looked it up, but the Washington Wizards haven't blown a lot of 15-point fourth quarter leads in the last decade. I'm going to go with it probably hasn't happened much.